National security reporter Greg Miller co-authored the Washington Post story. Good morning.
Good morning.
So last night, a number of White House officials called the story false. This morning, President Trump said he had the absolute right to share these terrorism facts. What's your take?
Yeah, so once again, we're seeing the president sending out his team, his subordinates, to advance one storyline, and then he immediately comes behind them and pulls the rug right out from under them. I interpret his tweets this morning as essentially confirming what we reported yesterday and trying to offer some sort of defense that he did so for legitimate reasons. I think that that's hard to square with how this conversation was characterized to us in our story, in which he was essentially boasting to these Russian officials about his inside knowledge of a very sensitive Islamic State threat.
I wonder why they're constantly defending the notion that there were no disclosure of sources and methods. In fact, that was never something you alleged.
That's right. Our story was actually included a sentence that said that Trump did not disclose the specific collection mechanism here or capability, nor did he identify the ally that provided it. But he went into significant detail on the intelligence that came through that intelligence channel. And that was what was problematic, because Russia, which has highly capable intelligence services of its own, could possibly reverse engineer that information and figure out where it had come from.
So, Greg, one White House official who was in the room during this meeting says that the sources that you're quoting were people who either weren't there or are no longer in the government. So how do you determine how you can rely on the sources that you get? I think everybody's curious about how you got the story. I'm not asking about your sources, but did you get a call? Did you get an email? What happened?
I mean, I don't want to go into really any detail about our sourcing on the story, except to say that we had multiple sources corroborating this information, and that it is all held up, and that other news organizations have since matched the story. Trump's tweets today basically confirm the story. And we had lengthy interactions with the White House all day yesterday. I had two separate conversations with the National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster, in which he never said, in which we discussed the story details at length, he never said it was false until after it was published.
All right, so have we heard yet from the country that was supposedly was sending this information, and who the relationship may have been at risk because it was disclosed? Do we know what their reaction has been?
You know, we didn't identify that country in the story.
I'm not even asking you to identify it. I'm asking you on your reporting.
But we've said in the story, I don't know that we've seen yet a reaction, but we do know that this is a country that in the past has expressed deep concern about the United States' inability to safeguard secrets that this country provides. So I think it's safe to expect that they're not going to be very happy with this latest disclosure.
Well, Mike Morrell said in a previous conversation earlier today that H.R. McMaster should have informed the president about the sensitivity of this.
To stop talking.
Right, while in the White House.
Well, I think it might have been difficult. You know, I think it speaks to the sort of atmosphere in this White House that nobody, it appears, is in position to challenge Trump on these kinds of issues. In fact, one of the details in our story talks about the lengths that his own national security staff goes to try to prepare him for meetings like this. They put together, you know, 2 to 5 page briefing papers that he's expected to read to understand how to handle a meeting with foreign leaders. And he insists that those all be boiled down to single-page bullet points, and he often just sets those aside.
Greg, you really take us inside that Oval Office meeting as you described, that White House officials immediately recognized that the president may have, quote, overstepped, is what you write, and that the CIA and NSA were called immediately to begin a discussion about this. What did you learn about that? What were they concerned about?
Well, they were concerned about the fallout, and I think this is something else that really undercuts those denials we saw from the White House last night. If this was all appropriate and there was no problem here, why was it that White House officials were quickly calling the CIA director and the NSA director to give them a heads up on what had just happened? And the purpose of those calls was to warn them, because those agencies are the ones that deal directly with this partner. They're the ones that are going to have to deal directly with any fallout.
Greg Miller, thank you.
Great reporting.